my thoughts. Sam, do you have something you want to?
Yeah, just one more question, Jason. The if it remained residential, the two homes for those two lots that face 1200 West, if I'm understanding right, they could be 2 stories, but the 3 flag lots would have to be 1 story because they're like deep lots or zone.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Because frankly, I'm not really as concerned with the lots being that small because most of those lots are actually larger than the lot that my home is on. So I think, to the mayor's point, I think Orem has a real need for that type of home, whether you want to call it a starter home, whatever, but that would be at least in that affordable range that a lot of young families would really be interested in.
Okay. Councilor McDonald.
And Randy, to your comment, I think no matter what you do here is a better neighborhood, a build out. But I have heard the other neighbors who have been concerned about a social contract. And my inclination is to say, what compels us to change it, and I'm not seeing that compelling. And one of the challenges you have of serving on a city council is people on both sides. This isn't like I can hide in Washington, and you certainly know this too. You know the neighbors on both sides, and so that makes it more difficult. But I think that my default position would be status quo. So thank you all for your comments tonight.
So anyone care to make a motion? If not, I'll go ahead and move that the city council deny the amendment of the general plan of the Orem City Code by changing the general plan designation at approximately 540 North, 1200 West from medium density residential to regional commercial.
Second.
Again, the motion is to deny.
Second.
Okay. We'll start with Councilmember Spencer. Are you still on the line? Dave? What did you say?
Nay.
Okay, so you're in favor of the commercial building, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Councilmember, actually, we'll go over to Councilmember LeRae.
Nay.
Okay.
Nay. Aye.
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 Okay, the motion passes. Okay. We'd like to go on to item number 15.2, which is a fence modification.
I think so. Not.
All right. Councilor McDonald wants me to clarify. The motion was to deny changing the zoning, so the zoning is not being changed. The ordinance that we put forward denies changing the zoning. We'll now go to item number 15.2, which is a fence modification for Wiggy Wash Car Wash at 220 West Center Street in the C2 zone. This is a continued item, and staff recommends that we still continue it to August 28th, 2018. I would like to make a motion that, to that effect, that we go ahead and continue this to our next city council meeting, August 28th, 2018.
Second.
Okay. We'll start with Councilmember Spencer.
Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Lentz.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. This particular item then is postponed and continued to August 28th, 2018. We now would like to go to a resolution, and this resolution is not, I repeat, not a public hearing. This is a resolution providing for a special bond election to be held on November 6, 2018, for the purpose of submitting to the qualified electors of the City of Orem, Utah, a proposition regarding the issuance of not to exceed $24.5 million general obligation bonds to finance all or a portion of the costs to acquire, construct, furnish, and equip renovations, additions, and improvements to the city's Family Fitness Center, including family-friendly changing rooms, family-oriented facilities, a suspended track and all ancillary and related improvements, and B, acquire, construct, furnish, and equip a community library hall at the city center campus, including all ancillary and related improvements, providing for the publication of a notice of a public hearing, approving the form of and directing the publication of a notice of election and the ballot propositions and related matters. And our presenter is Brendan Biden.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Here with Richard Manning, Charlene Crozier, Carl Hurst, who are part of the, staff expertise team, including Craig Stevens as well. And then we also have a couple of consultants that we've worked with to prepare all of this information, and that we'll be presenting to you tonight for your consideration. You'll notice that some services. This video shows footage of individuals and families taking advantage of the new Altogether playground, the splash pad, the dog park, the pickleball courts, new playgrounds elsewhere in the city. We've also made some improvements to the existing library buildings. Our makerspace has been very popular and has even had a news story or two related to it. We have new study rooms that have been heavily used since building those recently. And then, of course, our kids zone is wildly popular, and I too remember being a kid coming to story time, and I guess in an old kids zone at the time. The city has a long history of providing exceptional recreational opportunities. And if I may share a quick personal anecdote, as you look here at that newspaper article of when the rec center was built, I remember coming to those stairs, and with my parents and my 6 siblings at the time. I was 4 years old, and my dad had a penchant for encouraging us to be recreational oriented, and he would tell us how much, essentially how fast all of us kids were. He'd say, you're faster than greased lightning, Bren. And I remember being at the bottom of those stairs, and
I noticed on the center rules here in the paper, it says children are not to run.
Fortunately, this was outside of the rec center, so we all thought that we were going to pull one over on my father because we wanted to get, I guess, a treat from the vending machine or something, and we said, if we beat you to the top of those stairs, then you have to buy us all a treat. And for the first time ever, my dad was saying, yep, if you can beat me, I will buy you that treat. And all of us were, getting on wanting to be a part of this deal. And for the first time in my long 4-year-old life, my dad beat me in a race. And not only me, all of us children to the top. The real reason why I share that little personal story is that the idea here that we're trying to create something and continue to build something and upgrade something that will be impactful for families is a real, sincere, genuine thing. It's not just sort of superficial or trite or cliche. So I guess enough on that. Library, similar long history. To this day, I still get families in my neighborhood that say, the Orem Library is the best library in the county, and we go to that library over any other. So I'll re-review the survey, the renderings, the financial impact, and then timeline and next steps, and again, we'll open it up for additional Q&A. In 2014, in a CARE survey, we had we started to see evidence of public demand for upgrades to the fitness center. You see there on the left-hand side. The number one item there was replacing aging playgrounds, which again we've been actively doing. The very next item there was upgrade to the fitness center. On the right-hand side, as we asked individuals to how they would allocate if they were given $100 in care, how would they kind of spread out those dollars, and the item with the highest average dollar amount associated with it was the library auditorium. So this is kind of shows that initial demand, at least in a formal survey format. Most recently, we did essentially a follow-up survey. 1,500 respondents responded to this survey that I'll summarize briefly here. We are still seeing strong, generally positive. 60% said they would vote probably for or definitely for. See 40 probably for, 20% definitely for, and then 26 probably against, 15 definitely vote against. Then after we kind of did just that initial base foundational question, we wanted to see how citizens would respond to different messages associated with the ballot question, or what was being proposed in terms of the projects that a potential bond would go to. And you can see here that clearly the top two messages that really resonated with people was, one, the idea of not having an increase in property taxes compared to current levels, and two, the idea that citizens wanted to know, okay, what would these dollars actually be going to? We want to have an idea of what would the specific upgrades would include. There again, you've seen this. There was a series of other items that had good appeal in terms of how they resonated with people, but by and large, those were the two most critical takeaways. Of particular note, you can even see there that the no increase in property taxes even kind of moved the dial with those that were more opposed rather than maybe just somewhat. So after we went through those series of messages to try and gauge, how those how they resonated with respondents, then we asked the question again. Okay, so now with a little bit of education on the proposed ballot question and on these projects, now if you were asked to vote for today for a $24.5 million bond, how would you vote? And there you see almost a doubling of those that said they would definitely vote for, a little bit of a decrease in those that would probably vote for, but then you see almost half of those that would probably vote against decided to change theirs to either probably vote or definitely vote for, and then minimal movement for those that would definitely vote against. So there is certainly a group of citizens that are essentially opposed enough that they wouldn't be changing their opinion, at least over the course of the messaging in this survey. Part of the analysis that we asked the survey consultant to provide for us, they showed how many of our respondents had used the library and the fitness center respectively over the last week, month, or year, or never. But we also want to know, okay, what percentage of respondents have never used either facility, and that only came out to be 10%. So in other words, 90% of our public would directly benefit from these projects, aside from, you know, indirect benefit of increase in quality of life. Okay, so in terms of the specific upgrades, again, we've worked with a couple of different architects to come up with these renderings. VCBO who has been the architect of record for Provo and Springville, has helped us come up with these renderings for the fitness center. So we'll go over that. A key core item that would be something that we would really kind of tackle first and build the rest of the design kind of around would be these family change rooms. And we've got pictures here of other family change rooms that other local and other rec centers have provided. And we have some conceptual renderings as well of what we think we can fit into a rebuild. Have some ideas here on the suspended walking jogging track. Of course, you know, the current one is in the basement. The idea here would be to get it up so that we can have easier access to a greater amount of natural light and more of an open feel. We would also propose that we would have, essentially with that transition from main floor to second floor, an incline track that would connect into the rest of the track as well. We'd want to be responsive to whatever the current fitness and exercise space demands would be. So we'd imagine this would be open area, and that when new different types of exercise space came up, or trends like I'm drawing a blank, Carl. What are some of the latest fitness exercise trends?
You've got CrossFit, you've got body weight. Spin is very popular. Zumba continues to be popular. We'd just like to have space that was adaptable as practices transition.
Thank you. In addition to kind of general open space for self-directed exercise use, we'd also imagine there would be specific studios that would be directed by an instructor. And then today there are 14 racquetball spaces, and so although we don't see the demand these days for that amount of use, we would still certainly maintain some amount of racquetball courts. We would imagine in the 4 to 6 racquetball court range. The existing parking, due to the proximity of Mountain View High School, would be something that we'd want to address. Currently, all parking stalls combined, there's about 660 parking stalls. We would propose that we would, with the change in the entrance to the north, and essentially building out an area that formerly was a bus turnaround spot, that we'd be able to add another 214 stalls or essentially.
So you would pull out the grass median area altogether?
Correct, and turn that into parking stalls. Again, something new compared to when we presented a few weeks ago is an outdoor rendering of the library hall, and here you can see we are taking into account the value engineering that we discussed previously of taking out that second story balcony. This is a view from the existing council conference room coming out of the breezeway there. So here you can see inside, formerly there was that 2-story concept with the balcony. but we would propose a one-story value engineered concept that you see here on the left. And this is looking at the proposed lobby for the library hall. This kind of gives a cross-section, again, of what it would look like to remove that second-story balcony. Another view there, and including the seating. Similar to with the fitness center, we've looked at other halls and auditoriums that have similar seating amounts, and that also shows some amount of non-fixed seating to expand and contract as needed. We would also, so on these pictures here, just are indicative of what we would anticipate with the stage. We would propose a proscenium wall that would allow us to essentially make the stage multi-use and in purpose, depending on who's using it. And then, as I think many are aware, we currently pack in the participants with our current programs, and you can. This kind of illustrates how the participants flow out into the existing bookshelves, and so the new library hall would allow us to make it so that everyone had a good seat. So those are the specific improvements that, again, in consultation with our consultants, that we would be able to fit in with this bond proposal. This graph here shows the existing